Welcome back to Fantasy Football Weather Guys. Glad you guys could join us for week 4 of the NFL. And I'm the host, Colin Golzinski. I'm here with my great friends and colleagues, Dr. Mike Ventris and Sean Bratton, who are our staff meteorologists. Welcome, guys. How you doing?
Hey.
Doing good with now the Giants having Daniel Jones at the helm. So
hey, that is my new franchise quarterback in our league, by the way.
Well,
how much you spend on him, Mike?
I put down 23 large ones on him. I was desperate here for the quarterback position, and as this being a keeper league, I think it's a good gamble on my part, just because.
The cost. I mean, it's gonna be a last round pick. You could have him for a while.
Yeah.
Your penalty is gonna be a 16th round pick next year. That's pretty good.
How do you feel about that?
Beat your current QB having mono and being out for a month. So
yeah, well,
any QB beats that right now.
Well, okay. I get enough crap here living in New England on the Jets, right? The only thing that makes me happy here is we're not going to lose this week.
Well, you're not going to win either because you're on bye.
Yeah, but at least I can swallow that and move forward here. And
so that's where Jets fans are now. They'd rather not win or lose instead of actually play football.
Honestly, if I was a Giants fan at this point, I'd be happier just because there's something to look forward to.
And that says a lot, by the way, if you're a Giant fan hearing that.
Well, let's just not forget the true fact, right? That the true New York team is the only one that's undefeated at Meadowlands this year, the Bills.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we could say that.
Yeah, but we could also see what happens this weekend when they actually play a real football team.
Oh.
Well, I mean,
Tom Brady.
Yeah, but I mean, think about it.
Infinite.
The Bills have played the Jets, the Giants, and the Dolphins. I mean, come on.
Well, let's get back to why we're here. So we are looking at weather impacts for this next week. We're not seeing a lot of dynamic weather, but we are seeing one game that comes to mind that we want to discuss. It's the Jacksonville at Denver. And I think the wind is going to be an issue. And Sean, why don't you just kind of explain what we're seeing and give a little update on that game?
So, yeah, there's not a whole lot of weather to talk about this week, except there's one system over the West Coast that's going to produce or is the factor causing our caution for the Denver game. And what you see on this map is two different colors. We see red and then we see blue. And the blue over the West Coast, over the Northwest, is indicative of what we call a digging trough. And all that really means is that we have low pressure developing over the West and over the Intermountain West. Now, in contrast to that, if you look over to the east, the eastern two-thirds in the southeast United States, we see the reds. And that's associated with ridging. And that usually is indicative of clear, fair weather. But we're not necessarily as interested in either one of those systems. We're more interested in what's going on in between those systems, because what this pattern shows us is that we have what's called a strong pressure gradient. So what I want you to think of when you think of a strong pressure gradient is kind of squeezing like a soda bottle. And if you have a liquid or if you have air in there, when you squeeze that, you're causing high pressure within the bottle, and that air wants to escape. And that air escaping from the bottle is kind of what's happening, or what we're seeing simulated here in between the blue and the red. And if you look at the Denver area, the Denver region, that's the kind of the area between the high and the low. So that's where our strongest pressure gradient is, and that's where we're going to see our highest winds. And winds, we're predicting for game time, as we're looking at these models throughout the week, they actually keep going up and they keep escalating a bit. So
where are we at right now, Sean? What are we looking at?
This right now is a mean sea level pressure and 10-meter wind. So essentially we're looking at surface wind speeds. So the reds and the oranges you see are associated with higher winds.
So we're looking at this, it looks like about 20 miles an hour?
We could be looking 20 sustained, even up to 25 for periods. So this is at, and the image we just saw there was at, I think, was that at 18Z, Mike? It's
actually 21Z. It's right at game time. So
okay.
Yeah, so typically with the models show the winds here, they're actually a little bit underestimating. They typically have a low bias in the wind speeds. So we're seeing a lot of different forecasts out there bumping that wind speed up to probably 25 mile per hour sustained. So that's going
to have some impact on players. Really the quarterbacks.
Yeah, actually, it's a long list here on those players and impacts on. Actually, the most impacted player from strong winds during a game is actually the kickers, right?
Oh, true. You don't think about that until for field goals. That's a great point.
When there's more wind imposed on a longer field goal, there's higher risk for that to have a trajectory away from the point of where you want to go, right? So in this game here, we have two kickers, Brandon McManus from Denver and Josh Lambo. Both kickers have been inside the top 15 this year so far. Lambo's been ranked 11. Now, most team, in a 12-team league, you might have Lambo on your squad, but there's also some buys here, right? We're in the first week of buys. We talked about my Jets on buy, and I don't think anyone's starting Sam Ficken.
And to Colin's point, these could either benefit the kicker or kind of hinder depending on what position they are in the field. But regardless, when you're getting up around 20, 25 miles per hour, a field goal kicker or kicker in general is going to be getting nervous. They're aware of this. This is something that they take into consideration when they're going out there and they're doing their pregame and they're kicking. They're realizing the factors that the winds have. So it's even as much as it is physically affecting the football, it's a mental game too.
Yeah. And I guess the real issue here is, right, many people have probably Robbie Gould on their team and now that he's on bye, you're seeing teams drop that kicker for someone else. I guess the message here and the recommendation on our behalf is don't go out and start Brandon McManus or Josh Lambo. Just stay away from them. Find someone else in the free agent list.
Yeah, and I'm also going to say with that is I anticipate that with this game, these are not exactly two high octane offenses that we've necessarily seen this year. So I think the scoring opportunities are going to be not as great, especially with influencing maybe some of the other positions. So I don't know how many scoring opportunities they're going to have. And with the win, potentially they may need to get to the 25, 30 yard line in order to have a good chance at kicking a field goal.
Yeah. So it's a good point, Sean. And, you could think about obviously the wind having some impacts on quarterback production and wide receiver production. Now, I did go back into some of the archives online, and I found if any games where Joe Flacco threw and wins, it actually had a pretty good game back when he was in the Baltimore Ravens during that game. Now, I knew that they ran more so out of the Wildcat in that particular game. I think this was back in 2013 when he was actually playing in a high wind game. The problem is the sample size, right? It's small. The team actually had a game plan to go out and not try to throw a lot. So his attempts were down for his seasonal average, but he actually performed well. So it's a hit or miss with the quarterback wide receivers. But I think there are some wideouts that I would stray away from in this particular game. And that's the guy that you just picked up, Sean, in our league, right?
Yeah. Shark has been a monster the last couple weeks here.
Number 6 wideout.
Yeah, and he's actually had this whole season actually has been amazing. And Gardner Minshew's going to him deep and looking for him, and he's been a producer. But to your point, I'm a little bit concerned about these longer passes in a windier environment. Coaches, once you get past that 20-mile-an-hour wind, people are going to start talking about it. Coaches are going to be aware. They may game script that out a bit. Right. So they may realize, like, hey, if it's a third and long, a third and 12, we may not try to get that pass down the field. We may just run it instead. So what I anticipate is some of those throws and the yards per attempt and the total number of targets to go down, and potentially the number of opportunities for our running backs to go up.
Yeah, so this might be a good spot for Denver's running back, Philip Lindsay. He's coming off a week where he just had over 20 rush attempts, 130 all-purpose yards with 2 touchdowns. Now, he had 81 rush yards in that game, and actually he did contribute in the passing game, catching 4 catches for 49 yards. And you have to keep in mind, Royce Freeman is banged up a little bit. You see his reports out of practice, he's limited. So I wouldn't be surprised to see less usage for Royce Freeman in this game and for the Denver Broncos to lean a bit more on Philip Lindsay.
Yeah, I'm not sure where DSF he's at for his value, but he would be, I think, a really great pickup, a really good value overall for this week. Just I think his usage is going to be up. And like to your point, the Jaguars have a really good defense, but if he's getting those opportunities and they do have a chance to get to the goal line, I think he's going to be the back.
Yep. And also a quick mention on the Jacksonville running back Leonard Fournette. Man, that was a brutal game last week. I remember being on the phone with Sean's just crying because he had negative yards in like 14 attempts. And then like
He
literally
still got positive yards at the end though.
Well, literally, when me and Sean were on the phone at the last moment, I just hear Sean yelling because he was going against someone playing Leonard Fournette, and Leonard Fournette ended up with a 69-yard run.
So mad.
Yeah, and that literally made his total yards 66 for the entire day. So
yeah, and I ended up losing because of that run essentially because I only lost by like a point. So if it wasn't for that, I would have won that week.
Anyway, yeah. So the usage here, the Jaguars are using Fournette 100% snap. So he's getting that usage. And, I could see a slight uptick here on him getting the ball fed to him a little bit more. And we've seen the Denver Bronco rush defense already give up at least one rushing touchdown per game with already multiple games of 2 TD rush touchdowns. And that was Josh Jacobs in week 1 and just recently Aaron Jones in week 3. So I'm not straying away from Leonard Fournette. I'm probably not going to play him DFS, but I'm starting him in our rotisserie leagues.
The question is could Gardner Minshew, how is he going to do in some adverse conditions with wind? I mean, everybody's on his bandwagon right now. I'm on his bandwagon right now. I mean, he is the definition of like hardcore America. Like that is the definition of America right now. Just look up America on Google right now, and Gardner Minshew is going to come up. And he's been a real boost.
And as you're looking up Gardner Minshew, make sure you look up Fantasy Football Weather Guys on all our social media platforms.
Yeah, that too. Definitely
Guys.
do that. Actually, do that before.
Yeah, we would rather have you
Minshew.
Google us first and then Google.
So yeah. The at Jaguars on Twitter just put out a tweet about Minshew and his mustache and his overall look, and they compare him to Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite.
Oh, that's funny.
And they said, so they're not the same person with the emoji. It was pretty funny to look at those two there.
He's rejuvenated that team. I mean, that team over the second half of last season into this season was not looking great. A lot of bad vibes, but he has rejuvenated them. And, I think I mean, personally, I hope he's there to stay. I mean, I know Nick Foles was there and he got injured. That's really unfortunate, but I really like what he's bringing to the organization.
Yeah.
So that's great. I mean, I don't know. Do you guys have anything else you want to say about the game? I think we kind of hit it in depth this week because it's the only game that we're seeing some weather impacts.
Yeah, I would say the only other thing to kind of keep on your radar, we do not anticipate this to be a huge factor, but the Chicago game does look like it has some rain moving through. It looks like more toward the morning hours, but that could cover some of the afternoon into game time. Again, we don't anticipate this to be torrential downpours, but we could see some wind, we could see some rain. And if we do have an update on that come weekend, we'll be sure to post.
Follow us on Twitter and our website. Make sure you look at the weather blog. We'll update it Saturday and we'll update live on Sunday. It's important for your daily fantasy players to get your lineup set on Sunday, so we'll make sure we're up to date on the morning.
If you're not on Twitter, we also have Instagram at FFWeatherguys and also on Facebook there. So we are posting content.
And I want to just one last mention with regards to that. Like last week was a perfect example of why to keep with us here, because literally we had rain showers and thunderstorms all around the Kansas City game, and they didn't really see much of an effect, but literally a small deviation in the direction of those storms, it could have had a pretty significant impact. So, sometimes these things this far out are kind of hard to predict from a weather perspective, but when we do get to game time, we'll be sure to update you as soon as possible.
Yeah, I mean, I guess a good example also was the Seattle game, right? The rain wasn't as strong as we thought it would be for that. And Russell Wilson and Tyler Lockett just went off. So I apologize on that call there. We obviously saw heavier rain rates in week 1, and the week 3 production was, Wilson and Lockett, they did have a more favorable matchup, excluding the weather component. But when the weather component wasn't as bad as week 1, those guys didn't matter. They still rocked out. So,
yeah. So again, thank you for following us on all of our social media. Our Twitter followers are definitely growing. We're growing on all our platforms. Again, thanks for watching on YouTube and listening on any cast, if that's on podcast or Castbox.
Yeah, good luck this week. Again, there's not a whole lot to really be concerned about, really, other than the Denver game and then maybe the Bears. So, ignite all your top level running backs, wide receivers, and QBs. And good luck to everybody this week.
Good luck, guys.
And I'll put the subscription link again in the corner for YouTube followers. And again, good luck. Have fun. See you next week.